Time to make another one. Hey there, my name is Jack Boyle. Found me here at San Antonio Pottery. It's in San Antonio, Florida. The World Wide Web address is sanantoniopottery.net. Please visit me there. Today we're going to continue our beginning level forms. If you were able to see that last video, we covered the bowls. The next basic form is cylinders. This is a cylinder here that I've made into it's a spoon jar or a utility base. One of the basic forms that we start out with is a coffee mug. So I'm going to go ahead, I will make a coffee mug and a bigger stein as well to show you the different types of cylinders that you can make. One of our first concerns, of course, when you're just beginning, is that we're going to go ahead and wedge our clay. Like I spoke about before, wedging is a homogenizing of the clay. What we're doing is we're aligning the particles, or removing the air bubbles, somewhat to kneading dough. But kneading dough, you're actually trying to inject air into the clay by folding over the dough. With clay, you're wedging it, you're trying to eliminate the air bubbles. So you don't fold the clay over at all. You really just use very small increments, not pushing flat down on the board, but flat and forward is the motion for wedging. So once you have a little handle on it, it really just takes a few seconds to wedge a piece of clay. I tell all my students that every single pot made starts out as a cylinder, whether it's a bowl. A bowl is a flared cylinder. Even plates are cylinders in the sense that they just have a very wide bottom and a short wall. But there is a different intricate challenge and a difference between making a flared form compared to making a cylinder. Because what you're going to do is you're going to keep your cylindrical form in a slight cone as long as you can. It really helps keep control of the centrifugal force that affects your pot as it spins around. So the next step is to show you the tools that we're going to use. We're going to have our needle tool, which we need anytime we have a rough edge or an uneven edge on the top of your cylinder. My wooden rib, which I use on every single pot I make. And of course my acrylic sponge. So you're going to start with this pound of an 8 ball. Slam it on my bat. And we'll put a little authority into that as we want to make sure it sticks very well to that wheel head. Go ahead and start the wheel spinning. Of course, centering is always a challenge for you new students. So what I recommend, especially if you're sitting down, is that you anchor your elbows into your hip or your thigh. You use the weight of your upper body and you push against the clay, keeping your elbow steady as a rock. You just feed right into it. The motion here, though, is I'm pushing with my right hand, I'm pulling with my left hand. I also have my right hand covering the top and pushing down at the same time. So logically, all that motion, all that energy is going towards the center of the wheel. Of course, you can tell when it's centered because it just doesn't look like it's moving when you look straight down at it. When it's not centered, a lot of movement. So I'd say that's doing the hula dance there. Ready to get that centered again. And right now I'm bracing my right hand with my left hand just to open this cylinder up. Of course, you want to make sure that you leave enough clay on the very bottom so that when you go to trim your piece later on, you'll have enough clay to trim away and leave a nice foot. So I initially do that. I'll test my bottom with the needle tool. You want to leave 3/8 to half an inch of clay on the very bottom. You might think that's a hole that's going to stay there permanently, but no, I just put a little pressure, cover that hole up. When I pull it towards me to widen that bottom, another common problem with beginning pottery is tendency to have cracks on the bottom of your pieces when they dry or they're fired. That's eliminated by compressing the particles. Even with your fingertip, just compression against the wheel head, not all the way through, of course, but you're just pushing those particles together. Another common problem is an uneven floor on the bottom. As it is undulated, the thin area is going to dry before the thick areas, and that has a tendency to crack there as well. The last problem that a lot of students forget about, or they have cracking problems, is to remember you take the water out of the bottom of your pot when you're finished. Okay, we have our piece centered, we have it opened up. I'm going to go ahead and slow the wheel down now. Working right in front of me, my very first pass. I'm just going to use my left hand, the thumb on the outside, directly in front of me, long finger on the inside, and I'm going to squeeze that clay in the bottom, and with the rotation of the wheel, I go about a finger notch with each rotation, and gently break away from the top. After that first pass, put a little more water on the inside wall, moisten the outside wall. I'm going to do another basic thrust upward, but you see how I'm also keeping this in a pretty much a cone shape, as opposed to a flare like a bowl. Gently break away from it. A little more water. Okay, now on this pass, I'm going to round the form out. So I'm going to push this base in, which also helps facilitate grabbing that ring of clay. Pushing it in, I'm squeezing that ring of clay. So with each rotation of the wheel, I'm pulling that clay through the wall, bending the wall and making it taller, and I round it out because I put a little more pressure from the inside out. You can see with before each pass, I moisten the inside wall again. I'm going to use my rib and start the trimming process right now. It's never too soon to trim, in my opinion. So I'm going to use the curved sections to take away some of this excess clay. Now I'm going to use the flat side of my rib. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to refine the form. I'm going to set it to this beautiful continuous curve. Compress the particles because I'm going to put pressure from the inside against this hard surface. And remove some of these throw rings, which some people like, some people don't, but it all aids in a stronger piece. I'm going to clean the bottom up, and here I'm going to use my thumbnail here to make a little line just above that foot. Again, I'm looking for any little burrs of clay, any sharp edges. I'm going to soften it with a sponge now. So there's my basic mug form. Next we're going to go on to a larger mug shape. This is a 1.5 pound clay, a little more than a 1.5 pounds. And my 1 pound coffee mugs hold between 12 and 14 ounces. This really will hold between 24 and 28 ounces when it's finished. You can see it'll be a little bit different form here. You really need to master cylinder making to go on to any other of the more complicated projects that we're going to challenge you with here on our little video arcade. So the important thing is start with cylinders. And then even before you do your first vertical pass, like push it together. I'm trying to make a slight cone form before I even start the throwing process. So already I have a wider base than the top. Right in front of me, my very first pass. Thumb on the outside, long finger on the inside. Squeeze that clay, pulling up through the wall, making the wall taller and thinner. And while it looks simple when I do it, takes a lot of practice to synchronize the rotation of the wheel, the amount of pressure that you're squeezing that clay with, and that pulling through. Basically, you're pulling like a fingertip height for each rotation of the wheel, ideally. I always talk about my toothpaste analogy, where imagine if this is a tube of toothpaste, the last of the toothpaste is at the very bottom of the tube. You got to squeeze not only the tube at the bottom, but also the toothpaste in between, and squeeze that up through the tube to the top. Very similar to how you want to get this clay from the bottom here all the way through the wall to the top. This last vertical pass, well, I'm not going to round the form out too much. I still do a slight curve in the bottom of this piece. It helps me to thin it and really aids in the vertical stretch I have around here. Gently break away from the top. In the trimming process with my rib. Affect the form now with the flat edge of that rib. I'll bring this mouthpiece in a little bit of coloring here. There we go. There's our large mug, beer stein, gigantic tea or coffee mug. One last cylinder. It's going to be a little bigger one, be the size of this utility base I showed you. You see when I'm standing at the wheel, how much I lean into this clay when I'm centering? Cannot say enough how important it is to find your position when you're centering at the wheel, so that you can bend into your clay with your elbows anchored into your side or your thigh or your hip. Because you will wear out your wrists and your forearms pretty quickly if you're just depending on the muscles in those parts of your body to take control. Press bottom, leaving enough clay to trim later. Slight cone form for a cylinder. Also reminding you that this is my real pottery shop here in San Antonio, and you'll hear various trucks and cars going behind in the background there. It's just part of our work environment. Most times with each successive pass, before I grab that clay in the bottom, I will push the base in just a little bit to help gather that clay and refine the form. As we get further into the lessons, I will constantly remind you about composition of a form of a nicely thrown pot, proportional relationships between the base, the belly, the neck, the lip. There we go, larger cylinder. Could trim that off, but I'm not going to. Okay, well that ends the throwing part of this demonstration. The next step will be trimming and handle pulling. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Hi, I'm Jack Boyle. We're working here to make these videos so that we can bring you the benefits of my 30-plus years experience in pottery making. I'm often asked how I got my inspiration and my beginning kind of motivation to get into this business. And I guess I'd have to say that really I didn't start it as a business. I picked it up in college. I walked into my very first ceramics 101 pottery studio, and there's my teacher was sitting at the wheel, and she made this beautiful form. Of course, I remember it being bigger than it was, but it was a nice round spherical form, and I just couldn't believe the beauty and emotion, and it was filled with the passion. I had to do it, and that's, I think, how anyone has to follow a career in the arts and crafts. Is you have to be filled with a passion for it, because it's not going to be easy. It's a long, arduous process. There's 1,000 subtleties to making pottery, but it's worth doing. I mean, it's filled my life with the joy of doing what I want every single day of my life. I'm one of the luckiest people I know. But you don't get into this type of business thinking you're going to make a lot of money. I've been very fortunate. My success has been modest financially, but it's enough that my wife and I have 3 great kids, a nice house. It's pretty much what everybody strives for in life, I think. A wonderful family and a house, roof over my head, enough food to eat. Retirement, though, that's another thing. I'm often asked, especially with my other pottery buddies, what are you going to do? What's your retirement plan, Jack? I have to remind them this is the type of occupation people retire to, not from. So my retirement plan is to just keep working, just keep loving. I can't imagine not making pottery all the rest of my life. So if that inspires you and makes you want to grab hold of this process, I'd like to invite you to join us, and I'll show you pretty much everything that I know. Thanks. I'm going to go ahead and start with the trimming process. Now, there's a couple different ways to adhere your pot to the wheel head. I'll show you my tried and true method, which I learned in college and how I've done it for many, many years. And that's using I have my middle wheel head here. It has concentric circles on it, which help guide you to the center of the wheel head. Seeing a little bit better now, I bet. So I use these concentric circles. I'm looking for the equal distance between the lip of the pot and that circle all the way around. So as I slowly spin it, I can visually pretty much line up that center. Okay? But with a lot of beginning pottery, the lip and the foot aren't exactly centered. So I suggest you kind of visually line, don't spend too much time lining up the lip of your pot, but you want to go up here to the base, which is the part you're going to be trimming, and you want to make sure this is correctly centered. So what I recommend for the students is I'll use my needle tool, and I'll hold it steady, and as close as I can get to the piece, and where it just finally touches, it'll leave a mark. Stop the wheel, find the mark, there it is right there, and just gently push it in towards the center, about half as far as you really think it needs to go, because on a circle you have 2 sides, just equidistant. We're pretty darn sure of our pot being recentered. This is one of the favorite processes for all beginning students, recentering your pot. And go ahead and adhere this wheel head with some pads of clay. And go ahead and trim the piece. Now, a lot of the theory of trimming is you're removing a lot of this excess clay around the base of the piece. You guarantee it's going to be thicker for your beginning level pottery. As well as that, you're also going to be changing the dimension of the foot of your piece. So I'm going to bring that foot in a little bit and trim off some excess clay. here. And again, I'm always looking for a smooth, gradual curve. I like to do a little bit of an undercut on my foot here. And when we get to a glazing video, it'll be pretty apparent why I do that. See, I do all my glazing by dipping and pouring. So this undercut gives me something to hold on to when I'm dipping the piece into the vat of glaze. So I have slightly minimized the outside parameter of this foot. Now, before I start carving the center of this out, I want to establish the inside line of this foot. So. Now, I'll start in the very center, and I'll carve that out to that line. By doing that inside perimeter line, I've minimized the possibility of overshooting this and going right off the edge of the pot. And I'm going to go ahead and sign the piece. I always use the blunt end of my metal needle tool. Put my name, the last name, and the year it was produced. So, okay, so that is one method for trimming. Actually, it's not trimming, it pretty much doesn't vary, but the method for adhering it to the wheel head can be changed. I'll show you that. It's another mug that I just happen to have here. This one side. Establish that inside perimeter line. Carve from the center out to that line. There we go. First, the depth of your foot is totally determined by how much clay you left in the bottom in the initial stage when you're filling. I have a tendency to make my bottom pretty thin. Right, next step is handles. So what I'm going to do here, see how well this is adhered. Oh, I'll pop that off. I'm going to go ahead and put my board back up here. Here. And there's two different methods for handle pulling. I'm going to start with a method that you're actually going to pull the pot directly off the mug. So you're going to start by scoring the area that the handle is going to attach to, right here. Scoring, a little slip, which almost always have next to your wheel head, where your water bucket is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this started and let it seed in while I show you the other handle pulling method. To start with, I'm going to take a little bit of clay, this is probably a little more than I need, and make about a finger-sized piece of clay. It's about right, fat finger size. Squeeze that in a little bit. And go ahead, stick this right on here. Doesn't look like much of a handle so far. Mosquito, you must be in Florida in the wintertime. And go ahead and adhere this while I do that. Smush it in. Nice seamless handle. I'm just going to put this aside for a few minutes while I do another type of handle. For this, I'm going to go ahead and, again, score the piece, get it ready. When I'm scoring, what I'm doing is I'm going to say the dry body, it's not dry, but a drier body, the mug in this case. And I'm preparing it for a much wetter piece of clay, the handle to stick to. So what I'm doing is just in that space, it needs to adhere to, I'm re-moistening. Yeah. Slip. For the heck of it, a little slip down here too. Now I have a bigger piece of plate I can hang on to. But again, we're really just going to pull a small handle off of this. Handle pulling is like a lot of other things in pottery. It looks easy, takes practice. Guarantee you though, if you stick with it, you'll be able to do it. I tell my frustrated students that some people have more of an aptitude for clay, for centering, for the process, handle pulling. But everyone can do it. You stick with it. This takes practice. Some people are born with a beautiful singing voice. Some people are born naturally athletic. Some people are born naturally potters. But it all takes practice. Even the most talented potter starts out making terrible pots. And there's my handle. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. Another use of my needle tool, which I'm right here, right where I need it. Okay, that's my handle. A lot of people will go ahead and make all their handles and let them set up a little bit. But I'm not going to do that. I won't make you wait. Okay, here's the area that I prepared for the handle. Here's my handle. Talk a little bit about the size and dimension of the handle. It's all proportional. You notice that the thickness of the handle in this way is similar to that thickness of the lip itself. So I started out by using my knuckle to adhere this. I'm going to hold my tail of this handle up with my left hand. My right hand I'll get in here and smoosh, what would that word? Smoosh that in. Nice seamless handle. Now, I'm going to hold up, I'm going to look at the profile. And I will find that pretty curve. And this is a time where with functional pottery you are combining the aesthetic look of a piece with the ergonomic feel and the handling of a piece. I always remind students that before you go ahead and adhere that on a profile, you want to look at it in this direction and make sure that tail is lined up with the top. In that case, it's off just a little bit. Again, smush it in. There's many different ways that you can end the handle like that. Just do a little loop there at the bottom. And the next step here will be to, I like to fill in this gap here between the cup and the handle. What I do is I make a little thumb stop that goes into that area. I'm taking a little bit of clay, make a small coil with it. Just the right amount. This coil is like an elongated football or perhaps a pregnant worm. Just before I apply, I'll take a drop of water, drop it right in that crevice. Just moistening the lip, getting ready for the reception of that. Add a little bit of clay. Just smush it in on one side. Turn it, smush it in on the other side. Now with a dry thumb, this is very important that your thumb is dry for this. What I do is I put the pressure towards the lip and then down onto the handle. I'll check that profile again. Okay, and the very last part of this step, this whole process, is after I chase any little burrs off, smooth any rough edges, look for some, could possibly be razor-like objects when it's fired if I don't take it away now. I'm going to take my wet sponge and moisten the body of the clay, the body of the piece. So, again, slightly softening it. And with one of my favorite decorating tools, right here, serrated edge on a metal rib, a slow rotation and a rhythmic motion. Okay, Now I got to show you one other way of pulling this in. I know I had attached that piece of clay earlier. I'll let that seat in for a while. I'm actually going to pull it right off the pot. Get a little bit of water on my hand. It's the same process, and you see how I changed my thumb position? Across the top, pull it, drag it down. I'll use the whole hand like this to lengthen a little bit more. And when I feel drag, I'll go back to the bowl and get some more water. Okay. Now, nice thing about this type of handle is that just simply by turning the piece, it'll find its own curve. Just like that. It's kind of cool. We'll put a little dab of slip there in the bottom. Put it here. Make sure it's straight. Tack it in. Again, we'll moisten that body. Go ahead and look for those burrs. Any excess clay. Pretty, soft. Now moisten that body. Get ready for my signature design. See, I clean my rib off between scrapings. And again, slow rotation, rhythmic motion. And we're done. Thank you for joining us here at San Antonio Pottery. My name is Jack Boyle, signing off. Happy potting!